Welcome everybody. We'll start in a minute. Let's give everybody some time to join. It's 2 minutes past. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune into today's webinar. Sadly, Mark O'Loughlin is delayed, so he will not be able to join us this evening. My name is Joey van Kuilenburg. I'm a marketing manager. I'm a marketing specialist at the CCC. Joining me today are Jurian Burgers and Sudhakar Nagasampagi. I met Jurian while creating courseware for another training some months ago. It was in October, November. He shares great examples and we just had to have him for a webinar. So glad you can join us, Jurian.
Yes, feel honored. I'm glad to do so. Thanks. Yes.
Also joining us is Sudhakar. Sudhakar is an IT professional, accredited trainer, author, speaker. I've had the opportunity of working with Sudhakar on some IoT related articles. He really knows so much about the industry. It's incredible. Thank you for joining us, Sudhakar. I think we've lost Sudhakar there for a bit. That's okay. He can rejoin us. That's fine. The agenda for today, we'll go over a bit of a basic understanding of IoT. Then we'll go over the business benefits, both from a supplier side and a consumer side, use cases and examples, and then at the end, the warnings, critical notes, things that we have to be careful with when diving into IoT. For those of you joining us for the first time, a little bit about the CCC. The CCC is a leading provider of vendor-neutral certifications. And I mean vendor-neutral in the actual sense of vendor-neutral. We are complementary to Microsoft, AWS, Cisco, and we've been supporting the development of professionals since 2013. We have delivered certifications in well over 75 countries it is now, I think, across all types of industries, governmental agencies, etc. We focus on the Internet of Things, big data, cloud, blockchain, because these are disruptors. These can revolutionize the way work is being done. They can change business models, and it really requires us to rethink what we do. So these are the areas we focus on. Before we go to Jurian, some household items. We're recording this webinar. We'll be sending it out tomorrow. If you have any questions, there's a control panel on your right-hand side. You can type your questions. When possible, we will answer them during the webinar. If we have any left at the end of the webinar, we will answer them. If we run out of time, we will come back with you via email and we'll answer your questions that way. Is Sudhakar back?
I don't know. Probably some connectivity issue. He's dialing in from India.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, for those unaware of the situation, we're a distributed team. None of us are in the same location, so but I think we've lost Sudhakar. Sudhakar has a poll. We'll skip this for now. We'll come back when Sudhakar is back. As promised, Internet of Things. First, a bit of a basic understanding of Internet of Things, and especially why do we think it's so important. Data sensors spread like wildfire. This is something we hear all the time. The IoT market is on pace to grow over $3 trillion annually by 2026. And the biggest issue here for IoT is insufficient staffing, lack of experience. These are things that we can really help professionals, IT professionals, business professionals in understanding why IoT is important and how IoT can help their business. These are things that actually come from Forbes, from Business Insider, from AWS. LinkedIn is a great one. IoT is always high on the LinkedIn skills list. Same as big data, blockchain, where it links to. I think now, Jurian, it's time to hand over the controls to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joey. Yeah, it's a bit of a pity that we couldn't do the poll. One of those statements was that the consumer goods and devices are the biggest in the IoT market. Well, that would be a hand-on for this next basic understanding, that there is a differentiation between industrial IoT and consumer IoT. And of course, consumer IoT, we all know or have heard about, like in the gimmicks or your home automation, domestic automation. But as much and even having a more impact will be, in the opinion of several surveys, the industrial IoT. So for those who think that IoT is just a gimmick thing for consumers, no, that's not true. We would have got it out of the polls, but it's a whole other way of working and marketing. So these different benefits from both industry and consumer, but still that is on the consumer side. On the bottom here, you will see that business benefits derive both from the supplier side and consumer side. And that is what I got as an experienced service management consultant, and all over those years, that people are using, for instance, cloud and other services or agile way of working to experiment with IoT, just as simple as that, without fixed costs, with all benefits from cloud. So with less operational, only operational expenditure, just to create an environment where they could test. Well, that is done both at the industrial and consumerized IoT. So that bearing in mind, let's go to some business benefits. Next slide here is from the supplier side. No, this is correct. Thank you, Joey.
Yep.
So from the supplier side, or say, so to say, the vendors, there are different areas where their business can benefit. And of course, let's start with the smart devices. That's one of them. Also, one of the answers in the polls that IoT was all about smart devices. Well, that's not true. It is, of course, a starting point where devices are getting much more smart in itself. But what about the pre-processing that can be done at those actuators, sensors? Pre-processing, also referred to sometimes as, you can compare it with edge computing, that data is already transformed into information before it gets sent out to via some gateway to a cloud or whatever location the IoT processing takes place. So that's the next benefit. Suppliers will benefit from processing at the device, and also building upon the gateway that's needed to reach the IoT platform itself. And here you see some telecommunication examples that are deriving. So it is creating a new market where the old, so to say, old internet protocol is way too heavy, and IP version 6 offers a lot of addresses, but it's still heavy. So we see some new ways of gateway coming up. Long range, low power, that's the thing, of course. Less transport of data and very efficient use of energy. You see the message queue telegraph transport, which is also a broker role and new ways of gateway of protocols to send and receive information. So that's a huge part in telecommunication. That's why they all, and you see the 5th generation here, all telecommunication parties promoting the 5G. Specialties within that, Sigfox, Zigbee, Z-Wave, you'll find those gateways under the devices. Applications, as in the, well, it says here, the software development kits. A lot of applications not even known, are we aware of now, but are under construction. And software development kits, especially for IoT, is even offered as a service, both at the large providers like the Watson IoT, AWS, Azure, but also the smaller ones. They offer you a software development kit for creating your own IoT applications. Great. Coming into the cloud, another business benefit, of course, there has to be some device management. All those devices generating information. They also need to have access and secure management to the cloud IoT platform. Otherwise, these smart devices will become the new backdoor of your IT environment. So we're vulnerable there, something to be aware of. Well, of course, generating all this information, you already mentioned, Joey, the big data, the AI, that's based on large volumes of storage. So storage, and then, of course, the analytics is part of a business benefit. And, of course, and that makes a difference between big data and IoT data, is that it can have rule-based actions back to the actuators. And then, in total, you call it a IoT as a service ecosystem where all of these come together. So that's from supplier side. From consumer side, you can think of the consumer as in industrial and the consumer, the domestic part, but both of them will have some benefit of it out of what? For instance, take the industrial part, the predictive maintenance, one of the first things mentioned, predictive maintenance, more than just measuring the usage of a system. It can be fully and online gathered all this information and analyzed. And same as for IoT, big data means that you can, once analyzed, do your target marketing based upon this information. So a lot of, also in the fast moving consumer goods or logistics or whatever, they do target marketing, target auditing, based on big data analysis derived from IoT devices. Taking a step further on, as in geographically spread, we have smart cities, safety traffic control, things we're already used to on the highways, but in interconnecting these IoT ecosystems all together, you can form smart cities. And I saw in one of my assignments at the Port of Amsterdam, a great example of some of those ecosystems combined all together, make it a smart harbor, a smart port, like Port of Amsterdam and Rotterdam are really going to make all these systems connected to one another. And what you see here, what they do and what a lot of business benefit is that you can hook on with your customer, whether it's industrial or consumerized, for a longer period of time. You get a shift from product to services. Where in the old days you were only selling products, now you're selling a service. It's better for the longer term and to get, well, it's not a vendor lock-in, but you get more intimacy with your customer, long-term relationships. This will help new business models arrive that we are nowadays not even aware of, just by thinking, what can we do once we are in contact with our end customers? Talking about user experience, customer experience, measuring this. So altogether, it has one way or another having to do with customer intimacy, closer relationship with the consumers. We can look at some examples where it is, next, this one, use cases and examples. And I've grouped them, a few of them together. We will see 4 categories of using consumerized IoT. From the left one started just as a gimmick, you can say, geeks who were playing with it, like here you see the Philips Hue. Well, light up the light when the Uber taxi arrives. That's, in my opinion, a gimmick. It can be making more ease of a way of working. But still, it's in that category, like turn off the lights if the pizza guy comes in, these kind of things. For those of you who are aware with if this, then that would be a great start just to experiment with IoT and connected applications. Taking it a bit further to the nice part of it, here you see this is a picture I made at the Dutch Design Week last year, when I was able to look in a refrigerator, and at the door you see the cam still. So a lot of people are talking about this as an example, but they do exist nowadays. They are commercially available. And well, one thing you can do with those things, just sensing the presence, what's in my fridge, how many bottles of milk do I have, but also some physics, other sensors measuring humidity, the temperature, and able to adjust this one. Next slide, please. When we go again one step better, here you see a recipe from Goodness. Goodness, one of the major, well, I don't know worldwide, but it has a very large database of recipes, ingredients, and now it is where the earlier one was just looking into your fridge. Now you can talk in your kitchen. You can talk in your kitchen and say, well, I won't say it, otherwise some devices will turn on.
Yeah, please don't, because all the devices here will go off.
Yes. So like, hey, smart speaker, what are the ingredients of? Or is this gluten-free to be prepared? Or how should I handle this recipe? And give me examples. You can talk in your kitchen, and the smart speaker connects to the Goodness, and Goodness database ends up in feeding this back to you. So that's real-time interactive kitchen.
Then I'm just waiting for the next step where it will look into my fridge and just suggest me what to eat. Because
what it will, yeah, they can.
That would solve so many issues.
Yeah, based upon what you've looked and what you've ordered earlier before.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, taking a bit step further here, an old product here from Sonos, which is a wireless speaker. It's already categorized as old. They were 10 years ago not, how do you say this? The things nowadays, as it said here, are capable of doing things that 10 years ago we wouldn't even think of. And that's great that even these companies realize that the end user just expects your product to improve. If not, you're left behind. And nowadays, this Sonos speaker can really interact with the true play. It senses where the speaker is, in which room, and automatically adjusts its quality of music. That's great. Just by sending it to their application, to the database at Sonos Cloud, and feeding it back and acting upon your speaker to real-time tune this.
Oh yeah, definitely. Things we really didn't think about 10 years ago.
No, imagine the hook on with the customer during his product lifecycle. Instead of just selling a speaker, they're selling an experience that lasts for the lifetime of the component and even more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Jurian. Let me.
Sudhakar.
Sudhakar,
I'm
sorry.
back.
We lost you there for a bit.
Yeah, right. So hello, everybody. I'm back here. And let me take you to an interesting case of Amazon Go, which is brought in a new dimension in consumer shopping. While shopping at malls or stores, we all know the frustration of waiting in long queues at the checkout counters, especially during weekends and the holiday season. So Amazon has brought in a new dimension here in grocery shopping, which turns into a very pleasant, smooth, and efficient experience. In fact, the store's IoT ecosystem relies on many RFID chips. They have CCTV cameras are placed around the stores, customers' smartphones, which are connected to their Amazon accounts via a dedicated app, as well as certain aspects of computer vision and deep learning. So as a result of this, today there are no human cashiers required or long queues, or even if you have forgotten your cash or credit cards, that is simply good enough. one can quickly access to everyday products, especially groceries and convenience goods in these stores. It's a simple turnstile entry. Consumer can scan in with their Amazon app, which is downloaded on their smartphone, and the consumer can go around the store, pick up items, add to the bag, and shop like a normal shopping experience. The system analyzes what the customer takes and automatically adds it to their virtual cart, processing the payments for the products after they leave the store. And when the consumer exits, he receives an electronic receipt. In fact, the system is also highly responsive. For example, it can identify when a shopper took an item but decided to return or put it back. And an incident also happened where a shoplifting attempt by a New York Times journalist was immediately tracked by Amazon systems, and the item was added to his bill. Now that's the kind of IoT.
I didn't think about 10 years ago. Yeah, that's a good one.
Exactly. So that is how Amazon is revolutionizing the IoT's mind space. Next slide, please.
Yeah. Because of the time, we are we're already 22 minutes. I'm going to skip a few examples. This is a really nice one, so I definitely don't want to skip this one. I think you're on this. This is your example.
Yes.
This one is this is a more advanced one even.
Yeah, it gives an overview from fast-moving consumer goods. In this case, the candy bars, Kit Kat. In the ordering machine option within Kit Kat vending machine, depending on the level of chocolate bars there, you can order manually or automatically. It sends out the request by Sigfox, which is a combination, of course, on top of the used protocols, but this is a special protocol for the IoT. It comes to the cloud environment where the storage takes place, and at the background it comes into the service offices from Nestle. And then, of course, you can or have to approve that you really want to buy this, and not just hijacking the machine and let the order ship to your home address. That is a risk there. So risk is involved, money is involved, the data transformation is involved, new protocols, cloud service, the total supply chain, the delivery. That's a good example of seeing that one company has to add multiple parts of the total supply chain or business possibilities, as I mentioned earlier.
No, I can see two things here, Jurian. One, this will definitely help with selling more, because instead of allowing your customer to go to a competitor, you're actually offering them already products right before they run out of these products. So you can do so many things with this. But I can also see some risks here, because you need so much security here in place to make sure that this goes right.
Yes, it was my example of the delivery address, but there's more involved indeed.
You could misuse this in so many ways.
Yeah. And also on top of that, you can differentiate your services based on the SLA that you have with, in this case, Nestle.
Oh, yeah.
We see in many use cases that you really have to know your customer and offering him different services with different SLAs.
You can learn so many things that your customer normally wouldn't tell you, not just in this example, but in similar in similar situations, where you can see things that normally you cannot see and do things that right now you just cannot do. Which hooks really nicely into Sudhakar's example here. Sudhakar, maybe you can explain this one.
Yeah, surely. So mining, we know, is obviously a very dangerous occupation. In fact, how many miners trapped in a mine disaster stories have we heard or seen?
Oh, too many.
It's also an industry that can damage the health of both people and the environment. But it's a necessary evil. And one company that's using technology to make mining less evil is this Rio Tinto, based in Australia. In other words, it's trying to make it greener and safer, as well as more efficient. And how does it go about doing this? it makes use of large number of autonomous trucks which operate in huge open pit mines that are very far away from the nearest service and maintenance points. These trucks are typically equipped with IoT devices and can enable predictive maintenance by monitoring the truck's condition. In fact, each of the truck's tires contain somewhere around 40 sensors.
Yeah. Mm.
Think? No.
Yeah, so it addresses mechanical issues before they affect work streams, and the company can save nearly $2 billion per day per breakdown that is avoided. So you can imagine the amount of savings that can happen nearly in a year, that is around $730 million. In February 2018, their autonomous trucks surpassed hauling almost 1 billion tons of tow ore. And plans are in place to increase the number of autonomous trucks in the field from 80 which today to more than 140 by the end of 2019. So where human intervention is needed, human drivers can come online from a command center more than 930 miles away and then look into the problems if any of the trucks go down. So very classic example of how IoT is being exploited.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, so here you can make it safer and more efficient and actually save money.
Yes.
Great.
Very true. Yeah, so coming down to the major point of how to create an IoT business value. It's a simple 6-step mantra that one needs to follow. Many of the challenges organizations are facing are because of a very weak business case or because of security issues. Here we have the 6 steps which help you out to create very good business value for your IoT implementations. So the first step is understand what your company uniquely offers, and then why your customers keep coming back. So going on that basis, you can start first beginning with your business case rather than the technology. In fact, many IoT projects are failing because companies keep focusing on the technology first. Developing a strategy, an IoT comprehensive strategy, which requires an executive buy-in, the culture, the return on investment, etc., is a required step here. Designing security right from the start. Security is a very big challenge in the IoT domain, and so security should be thought of right from the beginning. It's always better to think big, start small, and then once proven, it can be scaled faster.
Starting small, would starting small also help with making it more secure, with just taking small steps and then scaling up from there?
Yes, exactly. So starting small, yes, security would be covered in all aspects, and then you can scale up faster and then look for any issues or loopholes in any of those aspects. Yep. And then joining or engaging with an expert or seasoned partner to help you to plan, develop, and implement IoT solutions. Since IoT crosses many domains, it is wise to engage with any kind of a seasoned expert or a partner. I would also add a couple. Yeah, I would also add a couple of other points into this, which is view IoT both as a source of competitive advantage as well as a competitive threat. Because in today's world, IoT is definitely an emerging technology, and you don't want to be left behind without implementing any of its usefulness. And instill a sense of urgency in yourself, your team, and in your organization. And that is how you can create.
An example from Jurian earlier, KitKat, they basically prevent competitors from offering a product because they can send an email or offer the product before the customer even runs out of it.
Yes.
Right.
So there is definitely some urgency there. Yeah. Can understand. Good examples. Security, Sudhakar. Here's a nice one.
Yeah, here's a very good example of security. Security, a big issue in IoTs. In fact, this is a real incident which happened with a Jeep in somewhere in 2015. Let us imagine that you are driving a car on a highway at say 70 miles per hour. And suddenly if you observe that the AC starts blasting out freezing air, and the radio starts switching stations on its own or blaring very loudly, the wipers turning themselves on with the wiper fluid spurting across the windshield, and the car is eventually brought to a halt of the highway, like in the picture. So what would you do? In fact, you're at the mercy of the hacker. It looks scary, isn't it? This was actually a test performed by the good guy hacker or a white hat hacker. They just wanted to see the security implications. And of course, nobody was injured or no catastrophic injuries did take place. But then you can imagine what kind of security issues can happen, and it could be turned to be really fatal or catastrophic.
Oh, definitely. And especially with so many cars being equipped with so many sensors and being connected with each other nowadays. And that's just more and more.
It's the computer
Yeah,
on wheels.
imagine.
Yes.
Yes. And another incident, I would just, if we can move to the next slide, please.
Yep.
Yeah, another incident is an assassination threat that has been avoided a few years back. The former US Vice President Dick Cheney had an implanted defibrillator and heart pump due to a long history of heart problems. But in fact, his doctor had ordered the wireless functionality of his heart implant to be disabled because there were fears it might be hacked in an assassination attempt. So any implants or ingestible devices can cause a lot of security issues. And so therefore security is one of the major challenges in IoT that should be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, can imagine that.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, this.
Yes, you did.
This, thank you, Sudhakar. That's not only, as you said, in the steps to take a business value, not only to create and think about the product itself. I compare them always with the top of the iceberg. That's the product. But as much interesting as the product itself is the way that we handle them. So that's we and the handling, the processing. So first of all, it must bring value to the customer. That's clear. If not, you get skipped. But secondly, you have to have an operating model to keep this up and running. And this really changes the way compared to we do it in IT. I took 5 of those processes out of them, and due to the time limits, I won't go in depth in here, but think of it that your configuration management needs to be very flexible and active, and it cannot be done in Excel sheets anymore. All those devices out there need active device management, financed by operational costs only, the release of new services by means of Python programming and orchestration within, as we already know and see in cloud service management, also comes into the IoT management. Capacity, the auto scaling to be in line with the need of capacity, and of course we talked about the security parts of it. So from that point here, we're looking at the processes. We already looked at the products. And in the next slide, please, Joey, you will see also the people and the organizations involved in it. So one of the things first, we always say, like, get educated and educate others. And that's what we are doing here. We try to do it with the courseware, of course. But if people don't have, well, you see it again here, a guiding on adoption, or as Sudhakar, as you were mentioning, we need to have a clear strategy. If that's not clear, it will result in chaos. If there are no resources, it will result in frustration. And if there are no competences, it will lead to fear or failure. So that's why and how we can add people with knowledge, with just guiding them in their adopting way, because this is promising. It's going to be very fast, and we have to keep track on that. And we have to help the community in order to get the much out of it. So you see a bad thing here, or a downside, how do you say this? The challenge is too much focus on technology again. And lack of standardization. Well, this is becoming slightly more mature, but we are still not there yet. We've seen IPv6, but also new low power, long power, low range protocols. You see the MQTT as an ISO standard. So yes, organizations are getting up to speed, but we are not yet there. So that's really a challenge. Whether it's finance, security, data regulations, just look at the most active way of, well, guiding your adoption to IoT. And we're not there yet, as again, but I think we will. I would think.
Yeah, but the industry is also moving so fast, and especially for regulators and security, it is moving so fast. It's so difficult for them to keep up.
Yeah,
even for us as experts, it's difficult to keep up, right?
Yeah, it's also for Open Group also has an architectural work group. There are a lot of IoT work groups out there. Well, let's just not hope that they have to reinvent the wheel, and therefore it's easier to adopt an IoT as a service, which is already, well, partly compliant to regulations, has standards for communication, for processing, for data protection regulation. And then you take it in a more mature way, all this IoT and adopting. So, but we have still a lot of work to do, and that's, well, my point, my takeaway, that we have to manage the operating model, which is very different than operating models from just IT as we know it.
Yeah, and definitely to not reinvent the wheel. I think that's the main thing here.
Yeah.
And the final thoughts on Internet of Technology is that IoT is the most important emerging technology. In fact, of all emerging technologies, many executives believe that the IoT will be the most important, ranking it above other technologies such as artificial intelligence or even robotics.
Yeah.
And so for a better life today at the workplace and at your home, now is the time that you have to act, learn, and implement IoT for everyone's benefit.
Yeah, that ties nicely into how I started it, that the skills that are needed are so highly valued by employers. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
A little bit about the course. I realize we don't have that much time. We also don't need to go over this in detail. As CCC, we offer a great IoT foundation course, great for enthusiasts, engineers, architects, business managers, portfolio managers. It's a really complete course. It covers the basics, it covers concepts, terminology, it includes advantages, monetization models, especially the mantras, the 6 that Sudhakar already mentioned, the business examples that Jurian mentioned. There's numerous other things.
Risk and compliance.
Technologies.
Risk and compliance is there.
Yeah. Risk and compliance, very important one, of course. It's a very complete course. If you're interested, contact me, contact us through the website even. You can also find all the information there, of course. It's a classroom one, self-study, virtual classroom. It's a really complete course. As I promised before, a little bit about the CCC. We offer a very complete portfolio. You also see there security, IoT, big data, blockchain. Sudhakar also mentioned AI earlier, also in there. And it's aligned with what vendor-specific courses are. So it's aligned with Cisco, with IBM, with AWS, and the likes. And that's how we always, that's what we always come back to. Are you digital ready? Are you ready for how fast the industry is moving? Are you ready for how fast things are changing? Are you really ready for how you have to work tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next year? The industry is moving so fast. We also have a skills survey. We're assessing how ready the IT workforce is, how ready you are, because all the organizations are in a transformational journey, and organizations are readying themselves for becoming digital organizations. There's not just the organization that started as digital natives. There's a lot of organizations that are in a transformation right now. To demonstrate the importance of this journey, also for the IT professionals working at these organizations, to assess the readiness, we're hosting the digital skills survey. It's still open. You can still find it on the website. I'll include it in the email that goes out tomorrow with a link. If you're interested, it's a really great survey. It will be a very nice report. There is still time to complete it if you want to. That being said, I think we still have time for 1 or 2 questions. Thank you so much, Jurian and Sudhakar, for the information you gave already. I hope you still can both stay for 1 or 2 minutes, because there is a couple of questions coming in. One of them is, what could be the effect of the implementation of 5G on the Internet of Things? Because that's also something, of course, we hear a lot about right now. Is that something that is easy to answer? Is it something we should park or come back to via email?
Well, out of the overview, I can just tell you that with the 5G, which is the next landmark, connections will be about 50 to 100 times much faster than the currently available 4G wireless. But right now, I think the 5G wireless technology is not yet ready to launch. And there are final guidelines for the 5G networks, which need to be approved, that I don't think will happen till 2020. But anyway, the vendors are all getting ready for this stiff market, and the competition is fierce. Yeah, there will be more of data that will be flowing through. So there will be upgrades required for the infrastructure, and security issues. All these will pop in when we transform to the 5G network.
But,
yes, we can.
But it's also possible on 4G yet. It will definitely accelerate the adoption, but IoT examples on 4G are as good as they are. So it's not mandatory to be on 5G.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It's also, as Sudhakar said, an up-and-coming thing. It's not there yet, but can definitely understand. Some more questions coming in, and I have to read them as they come in, so sorry for that. Do we have use cases on how IoT can be operationalized on a market standard ITSM platform? Asset management, yeah, of course, asset management, a very important one. Jurian, you're an ITIL expert.
Yes.
This might be right up your alley. That's also the last question, because we have 45 minutes today, and we are now at 44 minutes. So sorry for the other questions coming in. We can't answer them anymore. We will get back to you via email.
One of the things, as we already saw from IT service management compared to cloud service management, is that we have to have an active CMDB. The active CMDB, same goes for IoT. All those devices out there, they're much more than the ITD devices. So we need to keep track on them. So on a configuration management, from an asset management point of view, these systems need to be automated. You cannot do with your old service management processes. They won't simply work there. So you have to really redefine those processes. And it's possible. There are ways of Intune and other products that will help you with that. Inventory tooling, IoT platform tooling. It's already there as a service, as a part of it. Yeah.
No, makes sense. This concludes the content we have for you today. Sudhakar, Jurian, thank you so much. And everybody, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, same goes for me. Thank you everybody for listening, and goodbye to you all.
Have a nice day.
Thanks.